Spark Infinity, are you guys ready for the second ever mini Spark? We had our first last night and it went so amazingly. And so many of you commented and shared how you loved the interview. We're back with another one. We've got more great ones coming up. But today I want to bring to the stage one of my friends from way back when in Calgary, not to age us too much. He is Matt Keay from Business on Camera. We Maple. How you doing, Matt?
Hey, good, David. How are you?
I'm always good. You know, this here's the big thing. I think artists and creators should probably know at least one videographer, video editor, because musicians need music videos, authors need book trailers, dancers maybe need performance videos, and the better quality stuff that you can get from the eye of a professional uh, really enhances your presence online, and video is more important than ever. So, can you speak to that a little bit, Matt?
Yeah, first, I'm just really impressed with this process. This is new for us being a company called Business on Camera. You think we'd do more of these sorts of things, StreamYard, and then how it connects and integrates with Facebook and YouTube and live stream, and how all these software platforms can now communicate with, like, what was became so simple, 5 clicks for me to show up to your live stream and then share it with all my Facebook friends. Sorry for any of you who got this invite and are watching this because you didn't want to, but hey, what's up? Um, and the scalability of this and the way it condenses time, the way that this is on YouTube and on Facebook, and then how that can be shared and distributed, and the like. So I'm so impressed by your capacity to have figured all this out, which now that I'm
Mm.
doing it, it's quite simple. But to your question, video is the kind of thing you can record once and then repurpose it, retool it, re-edit it, reuse it. It's an asset. It's something that is you can either invest time or resources or whatever that looks like to produce, and then you can scale it ad infinitum and get it in front of as many people that you want. And some other great things is you can measure that, and you can know exactly who sees it by targeting them. You know how much of your video they watch, if they clip out after the first 30 seconds, if they watch it in its entirety, which province, city, age, demographic. Video is just now so hyper specific because in the way in which it can be distributed and
Mm.
measured.
Yeah, this whole process is really cool, right? It is surprising that the tech is simple. I think the hardest part in the past was almost like, what camera do I use and how do I connect the microphone and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure those questions still exist. The good news is there's a lot of video tutorials out there now, to your point about video, that are specific to certain types of people. You can walk through those video tutorials. It'll take you at a snail's pace and show you exactly how it needs to happen. So that's great. And I very much like what you said about you can make it once and make it live forever. When another parallel to that is kind of like PR as well. But I'd love to know, like, you're clearly passionate about video. So how did Business on Camera get started?
Skateboarding, in a one word answer, in that culture growing up,
Mm.
if you didn't film your tricks, they didn't happen. Like, your homies or
Yeah.
friends would be like, no, you didn't. Like, you had to film your trick that you did. And in stride with skateboarding video culture and skateboard videos being really the access to the progression of skateboarding, that the way in which you'd see what was going on was through videos. You go to the skateboard shop and buy a new video on VHS, and your shoe company that you follow or your board company would come out sometimes, every 3 years, maybe, if that. At that time, like, the investment was huge, and then the expense was huge, and distribution was difficult to just send out skateboard videos on VHS. And
Yeah.
so for me, I discovered skateboarding through a video called How to Skateboard, Thrasher magazine put out, and I just thousands of times how to learn tricks. I'd watched over and over. And so for me, skateboarding and videos just came, they were just the same thing to me. And I just, yeah, really truly blessed and lucky to have found two things that I liked and that I became particularly good at. and pursued. Later, skateboarding sort of fell off. I mean, I still love it, but it's just, yeah, it's weird because I remember how to do the tricks in my brain and how they feel even, but my body just won't execute the same. And then, but yeah, video. I pursued a career in producing videos.
I'm very familiar with skateboarding culture, actually, kind of a hidden passion of mine. I never got around to getting good at skating, as it were. I tried it a couple times, but like many, I got brought into the fold by video games, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series. If a new game came out back in the day, then you would know that you wouldn't be able to reach me for 2 or 3 days because I'd be playing it and finishing it and working my way through it. But it did ignite something, and I realized, man, these tricks are so cool, and the way that people pull them off, and then became fans of certain skaters and still watch people like Johnny Geiger today. He's got a great YouTube channel and a great Instagram account. And oddly enough, our regular Thursday night co-host Jody, who is a co-host on our Thursday night streams upcoming. It's going to be a fun one as well. He's also a skater, so it's something that several of us have in common in this community, and that's a really cool thing. I'm sure even now you could skate better than I could, Matt.
Yeah, I'll often say it's like golf or like snowboarding, where unless you're a little bit good at those things, they're not really the most fun activity to do. Like there's a whole process in the learning that can be fun. You're out on the mountain, you're figuring out how to put on your bindings and figure out how to snowboard, or like you're out and your friends with the golf cart and you're pulling your ball and having to do a drop by the woods. But yeah, I personally, I like to do things that I'm somewhat good at. Otherwise, I don't have a lot of fun, and that's like me on the golf course.
Yeah, I'm sure sometimes, like, there's different filming techniques for skateboarding, but there were also times where you had to be on a skateboard while filming.
Yeah, there's different kind of say techniques or style. In skateboarding culture, there's things called lines.
Yes.
Which would mean a series of tricks in a row. And so typically one skater would follow the other skater in a low angle on a board, with the camera quite low, which, and if you watch any of our early documentaries, Solar Hero is an example of our first film we made at Business on Camera. The filming style of that Solar Hero series is like low angle, kind of up at the interview subjects, because that's just kind of how I learned how to use cameras. And so I'd always hold them waist looking up at the subject. And it just had this kind of very unique style to it in Solar Hero. But yeah, with skateboarding, if it's a line, typically you're on a skateboard following the skater. And if it's a single trick, then you maybe will have a dual camera, one potentially following the skater, for example, up to a large handrail or set of stairs and following behind them, and capture that angle. But then, typically you'd have a more wide angle, as we'd call it, or cinematic type view of whatever obstacle, ledge, rail, and just on a tripod or a handheld, capturing it to see the trick if it's just a single trick.
Wow. Seems like we could do a deep dive on this topic alone. We might have to do that sometime, but I got to ask some other questions. So, Business on Camera obviously started in video, but your company has expanded beyond that. You're offering really almost like a full digital marketing suite. So what was that evolution like?
uh, there's different types of ways to talk about marketing, and one of the early ways or early on ways that someone described it to me was, with all of the, say, techniques and tools that are available on social media marketing, there's black hat, white hat, and gray hat. And black hat marketing is, for example, there's a ad that you click to download a game on your phone, and then on that game there's ads for casinos. And then the marketing agencies that run and build these games as a tool and a technique to get people off of Facebook to download casino apps then get a percentage of the deposits from the casino apps, as an example of black hat type marketing. And this requires all sorts of sophisticated ways to bend the rules and absolutely actually break the rules of these social media companies to work around their guidelines. And I learned about this, and I thought that it was fascinating, though, that there's people kind of, hacking the system of how these black hat type marketing can work. And then so I got to thinking myself, if people can do these types of things, um, can those same kind of techniques, though, and people that are that smart, what could they do if they did white hat marketing? And it just got me thinking early on about marketing in that way of, if it's possible to do this for that, what other things could be possible if you're doing it for things that are, good for the world. And so I just, through that, I guess, genesis or type of thinking, way of thinking that way over time, just was able to kind of connect with some different people that, had the capacity and understanding and apply those techniques to doing like really good white hat marketing. And that's where sort of video and marketing came together for us.
Yeah, as I was coming up, it was all about, well, a big chunk of it anyway was SEO. Everyone was talking about let's create content and let's make things and let's make it so that people can't help but find our website. And there were certainly different gray hat and black hat approaches to that. Now more than ever, I realize like SEO is almost just publishing good content consistently and then sort of praying and hoping that some of your pieces will be seen by people, and eventually they do. Like I've done enough publishing to know that you can have a hit, but you might have to publish a lot to even get to that point and build the flywheel of that whole thing. So it's good to have different marketing channels. Dan Kennedy would call the internet itself a singular marketing channel, not a marketing channel with many disparate spokes. But in a way, we have to think about it that way because there's social media, there's email, and then there's advertising, and they all kind of require different skills and knowledge to execute well, right?
Yeah, the yeah, broad stroke for sure. It's like, yeah, the internet, and then within that, there's so many disciplines and specializations, and you could take one little niche of a niche of a niche of an SEO agency, a search engine optimization agency that just does search engine optimization for dentists, for example, and then all they do is just search engine optimization for dentists all over the world on how geographic area and audience type and the way in which they're going to get people who or plumbers are another good example, or things that you need right now. Is like Google kind of serves this purpose of like, I need the thing now, typically is like, I'm looking for this thing. And so being there, and like generally human nature, we scroll down below the ads. And so there's something to be said about, the SEM aspect where you pay Google per click at the top, but the SEO part, people like the organic is like, well, I don't want to click an ad. Like I want to click who's at the top. And so the distinction between like paid SEM and then organic SEO is like, it tied so much to human behavior and psychology. And there's people, like I say, that they've got like a hyper niche within a niche.
Yeah, exactly. So you got business on camera and you've got We Maple almost like as a separate entity. So talk about what We Maple is and what it's evolving into.
Yeah, We Maple evolved out of business on camera. We, for a decade, independently, mm, I guess you could say independently, come up with our own ideas, financed and produced 17 documentary film projects in that decade. And we just ran into, I'd say we failed fast in business model, because it's like you do all this effort to make a documentary about a particular thing and find sponsors and partners and advertisers and whatever that looks like to finance these projects. And then it's like, okay, see you later, on to the next project. And there was no continuity in the business model to build those relationships and then have something after the documentary. And so that was happening of this, wow, this business as a model doesn't work, of what business on camera was doing. And then again, those thoughts that I started having about what marketing is and how to use these techniques. And so at the sort of simultaneously to that, broken business model. Wow, marketing has a huge opportunity. How could those two come together? And so when that happened and Business on Camera became more of a full service digital marketing agency, and
Mm.
um, over time, We Maple emerged as the new company that does just the purely documentary filmmaking, and it's its own legal entity with its own team, its own payroll, its own, you know it's its own entity, and just does the documentaries, while Business on Camera remains the marketing agency that is a full service digital marketing agency.
It's an exciting thing, and I think it's really worth acknowledging that, today you've got an office, you've got a team, and that is further than a lot of people ever take some of their passions. It's actually really, you know, something that needs to be acknowledged and recognized.
Yeah, well, you too, David. On the music side, and you have more published books than anyone I know. So right back at you. It is difficult for creatives. Uh, you pick a creative, art, singer songwriter, filmmaker, whatever expression of creativity. Typically, it's difficult to find a way to be paid enough that you can live, and especially in Canada, and what we're seeing in costs of, I mean, if you tried to buy cheese in this country,
Mm.
and so it isn't always easy, because you need to become just as much as of an entrepreneur typically as you are as a creative, and those two things clash. At least that's been my experience, is worrying about money and paying people and paying yourself and paying bills and all this stuff interferes with the true kind of nature of creativity in its truest, most honest and beautiful kind of form, was when your money kind of changes the way to express that creativity. When you're young and a child, your creativity, and you're just this boundless creative being without thinking about these other things. And so when you're trying to stay paid fairly in your job or your career as a creative person, you eventually move into like this corporate environment where suddenly you're director of XYZ Creative Co. And then you're not really necessarily a creative person. Now you're this kind of corporate person. And then these corporate entities decide which creative people get to be the paid creative people. There's this, like, you have to like get in. And then so it leaves a whole world of creative people, essentially unemployed, or having to find their own ways to get paid for their creativity. And so, we've been really blessed and lucky to, again, 10 years of hard learning of what makes a successful business model. But now we're really grateful and blessed to, we have 5 full-time people at Business on Camera, and then we have our We Maple group, which has some adjacent people from Business on Camera do some of the work at We Maple, but there's a whole film crew outside of Business on Camera that's employed by We Maple. And just to kind of echo your point, like, it's excellent and fulfilling and all that kind of stuff, to not only be able to provide for myself and my family, but to be able to provide for others and their families, and have Business on Camera and We Maple make a difference for them as a creative, that can be a place for them to be creative, show up here, like, we like to describe it, our team shows up powerful and self-expressed, aligned with their values of their contribution to the world and their careers. They're feeling like they're making a meaningful difference, and they're being paid, and compensated fairly with, uh, quarterly reviews and pay increases, and a place they can see growth in their careers. And so both Business on Camera and We Maple, we really value being able to align people's passions with a fair way to get a good fair wage. Yeah.
Hmm. You raise a really important point. Like, one of the guiding forces in my life, and I have many mentors. I don't know if I would call him a mentor, but I would certainly say at certain times he's come in and guided me a little bit. And one of the things he said was, if you want to do art, do it for you and add value to you. and enjoy it as a passion because it's a fulfilling thing. If you want to do art to make an income, do it for others. Figure out how you can add value to them. And so what you're saying is like you found that intersection. That's not always easy because artists want to be artists, right? But to be able to put your artist cap on and your entrepreneur cap on and say, if I can figure out the cross section of those two things, I can actually make a, not just like make a income, but make a living and be able to care for your family as well. And that's huge.
Yeah, there's a few things to unpack there, but what comes up for me, Gary Vaynerchuk, entrepreneur that I follow, he says you got to eat dirt for a while. However he frames it
Yeah.
is like I remember when I was starting out, that transition from like filming skateboarding videos to kind of I guess a realization of like, oh, like I could make other videos and be paid for this. I had a family friend who had insurance benefits type business, and they wanted to make a short video, and um, I was like willing to do it free, and they're like, oh, pay $1,000, and it was like the first time I was ever. It opened up for me the idea that I could be paid to do the thing that I already loved, and then I just sort of went along that track because, just to your point of like fall in love with it first, I was willing to work for free. Like you have a wedding video, like I'll film that. Or oh, you have this a birthday party and you have $500, like I'll do that and then edit it for you because I already loved it. And so any compensation I got was just an added bonus. And then that carried on to bigger projects, bigger clients, and bigger videos and bigger budgets. And but the rooted in it was I always loved the storytelling. I loved creating the thing. I love when the finished product, the music hits right with the, I still enjoy other people's content and other content because like it gets me excited. When there's quality content and quality storytelling, things that inspire me, make me think differently. I just love that.
Hmm. I think you're supplying people with a lot of inspiration for forging their own independent life. And that's something that I did for many years. And others would praise me or point to me as an example of someone who's done it. And I'll say, look, at times it was hard. And at times I've made other choices, right? Whether it was casual employment or little bit projects or side projects, or I pretty much just did whatever I had to do. That's always been my mentality. I'll do whatever it takes to be able to maintain a remote life, my location independence, my financial independence, to be able to do what I love to do. Hasn't always looked pretty, hasn't looked neat and tidy at all, but in a way, it doesn't have to. And I'm sure you can relate to that. Like the journey hasn't been all neat and tidy and wrapped up in a nice little box, right?
100%. I mean, we were just talking about this morning around responsibility of as men, and how fathers and however we learn these lessons, to take responsibility for our lives. We have a responsibility as men. If we carry on to have boys, to show our sons how to be responsible for themselves in the world. And I know you have an entirely different experience there, and whether we did touch on it on the We Maple video show when we had you on briefly, and that connection there. But there's something that inherently that, and I think why you and I align in this kind of meaningful way is people that take responsibility for their lives, both men and women, people that take responsibility for their lives and then create with intention the life and lifestyle that they want, exactly as you just described. If I got to go work part-time but I can still do music on the side, or I got to pick up a side gig or a side this so that I can still write books, is the same for me. Like I worked in retail electronics so that I could on the side make videos, but I was still in control, like or wanted to have that kind of independence or freedom. And there's a few kind of ideas rolled into one there, but ultimately I think people align best when they have a shared set of values. And if that set of values is based on, self-improvement, responsibility for your life, accountability, self-expression, and that the life that I have, or that you chose it because you created it for yourself, people like that align in a different way than if people that aren't like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love it. I'll ask one more thing. What type of project is the most fun for you to work on right now?
Um, I'd say talking about the connection between trauma, addiction, and recovery,
Hmm.
and then in stride with entrepreneurship and the freedom and time and ability to be in addiction and how that can grow in stride with ego and success, and then how when you have time and resources and no one really to be accountable to in the sense of like a boss, other than you have deliverables for clients and you have of course taxes to pay to the CRA or whatever. We've what that at least for me, what that did to me and also has done for me, this storytelling. So what I'm most excited about currently outside of our portfolio of clients at Business on Camera, which is very exciting, outside of our We Maple project, which is also very exciting for me personally. I've been working on a book. It's called Designated Screwdriver, and it's this like I say, story about trauma, addiction, recovery, and then in parallel to entrepreneurship and self-expression and the pursuit of aligning that I love something and how do I be paid for it kind of story. And yeah, I'm just really excited about being able to bring out into the public sphere more awareness about alcoholism and about those connections between trauma, addiction, and what that can do.
The bits and pieces I've heard from your book so far, definitely compelling. I don't know if I can say more, but it's almost like a novel. The way it's written, it's like it brings you right in the middle of the action and it unfolds from there in a really compelling kind of way. So I know it's taken time to get to that point. I'm sure you've had to go back and forth. This is the tough thing as an author, to be honest, is like being willing to submit to an editor or a second or third or fourth pair of eyes because they can help you improve what you've got. And I don't always do that. My most recent book was edited, and she had 290 edits for me, and I was like, this I don't know how much time I want to spend on it. I'm just like accept change, accept change, accept change. Never mind, select all, accept change, and then I'll go through it myself and see what else needs to be updated. But that's the hardest part of writing. Everyone is the editing, I think.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I didn't know how much is really involved in that process. And there's different aspects to, you hear the word editing and you think like, oh, like, spelling and grammar. Really, though, like a story arc and tone and cadence and how to pull emotion up and down and keep the reader engaged. There's so much involved in the editing. And, we joke, we have two curse words here. Memoir and autobiography.
Yeah, of
Uh,
course.
we've
That's why I didn't really want to use that term. But
yeah, there's a $1,000 penalty here with our name as a joke, but it's a style and a methodology of writing inspired by Hunter S. Thompson that he called Gonzo journalism, and it's an immersive
yes,
style of journalism that takes the reader into the action. It's as though you're living it. And this story, with certainty, for the male readers, is sort of a, oh wow, that's exciting. Like, I wish I could do that. And then the next chapter is like, oh, I don't want to be doing that. Like, that sounds horrible, and is truly an adventure. And really excited with the team that we have that's been collaborating on this project, and anticipate it being on Amazon sometime in the next quarter.
amazing. I've sometimes been compared to Hunter S. Thompson, but I would say my writing style is much closer to Dan Kennedy nowadays, my mentor at a distance.
Yeah,
Um,
I would absolutely compare. I don't think I've read a lot of your older stuff to see the Hunter S, but the Dan Kennedy, like, you're an excellent marketer, and um, intentional with the way in which things are packaged. And so, and that's very Dan Kennedy to me.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate that. This has been a great conversation, Matt, and I'm sure the community really appreciates you. I appreciate you. Is there anything else you'd like to share in closing? This is your interview, so you can say whatever you want.
Oh yeah, well thanks. I learned a lot here. The Streamlabs or StreamYard, excuse me, is the first. We're live on Facebook, live on YouTube, so I'm really curious to look and at this. And I shared this with my Facebook. I just select all.
It's
So
cool.
yeah, sorry again if you sat through this. Wow, thanks. But yeah, I'm interested to look, after this and see what happened. Who watched it? Did anybody watch it? Did we get any? And then now, how can I take this tool and then implement it into the things that we're doing and then with our clients? And yeah, just really inspired by your invitation, and was really excited to be here. So thank you, David.
Yeah, you've learned a little bit about the inside baseball of how the wizard Amos Bracewell builds Facebook groups. I've kind of adapted it to my own style, but a lot of stuff comes from him. I don't think he uses StreamYard. That's kind of my thing, but StreamYard's just too cool not to take advantage of. So thank you, Matt. Thank you, everyone. Much love, much love. Thanks for tuning in. Leave a comment. Let us know what you thought. That's all for now, and I'll see you later tonight with Jody Lubin.